Ms. Carpenter, that mic is there. Just want to put the microphone in?
That's fine.
Okay, well, is there one to the right of yours? Okay, okay, that's fine. Just want to make sure there's know where the mics are, that's all. I just want to know where the mics are. I'm good. I'm good. Come on in, young ladies, have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. Come on in, make yourself comfortable. Does this screen, you want the screen?
Sir?
Need the screen down?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Come on in, ladies and gentlemen, make yourself comfortable. Come on in, ladies and gentlemen, make yourself comfortable. Come on in, ladies and gentlemen, make yourself comfortable. Come on in, ladies and gentlemen, make yourself comfortable. You may be seated in any seat. Come on in, ladies and gentlemen, make yourself comfortable. You may be seated in any seat. Come on in, ladies and gentlemen, make yourself comfortable. So everyone should have a seat. Boys and parties, you may be seated. Come on, please, Deputy here. All right, the state may proceed. Mr. James, I believe you're.
A forbidden romance that ends in murder. Silence in the face of first suspicions of guilt. Lies. Flat out lies. To conceal the truth from family, or friends, the police, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, even a jury. This case right here, the one y'all have been here since July 29th for, this case is about Andrea Sneiderman. It's not about the Dunwoody Police Department. It's not about the DeKalb County DA's office. It's not about Shana Citron. It's not about Don Sneiderman or his wife. It's not about her mama, her daddy, her family, her friends. This case is about Andrea Sneiderman. That's what it's about. And so you ask yourself, why have we been here? Why? For the last 3 weeks. Well, Mr. Collette likes to talk about America. I'm going to talk about America. In America, you cannot lie to the police. In America, you cannot lie to a jury. It's a fundamental principle. He wants to talk about America. Let's talk about America. When you're questioned by the police in America, and it doesn't matter who the police officer is, it doesn't matter what you think about the police officer's competence. It doesn't matter if it's some clown or if it's Sherlock Holmes. It doesn't matter. If you get asked a direct question by a police officer in America and you lie, that's a crime. If you come into court and there's an issue in question and you lie in front of a jury after you've sat right there on that stand and you've taken a solemn oath and you lie, that's a crime. It has nothing to do with any of that stuff he was talking about. Who cares how good of an officer Detective Thompson is? It doesn't matter. He asked her about her relationship and she lied. She was asked on January 5th about her relationship and she lied. She was asked in front of a jury in this courtroom about her relationship and she lied. That's what this case is about. Period. Not about any of those other things. That's what this case is about. It's about her actions. It's about her deceit. It's about her words. It's about her lies. It's about her guilt, not Dunwoody's. Now, pull up my calendar. Let's talk about the facts. Because Mr. Clegg spent a lot of time talking about a lot of things, all right? Fact. And we're just going to talk about the facts, all right? I'll get in an argument later. Let's just lay out some facts. Fact. July of 2010. Andrea Sneiderman goes to Longmont. No question about that. She goes to Longmont on business. Fact. Henry Newman sends her an email saying, I'm coming, but I'm not on business. Fact. When he's announcing to her he's coming, he sends a series of emails talking about, I tried to send you chocolates, flowers, and candy. Fact. She gets those emails. Fact. She responds to those romantic overtures by saying, romantic for sure. Fact. There's nothing, that's unequivocal. Her words, her lies, her guilt. Andy Thompson wasn't in Longmont. She was there. Was Henry Newman. Fact. He gets there. On the 21st, all right? And the same day he gets there, she makes changes to her reservation. That's a fact. You can talk about the DeKalb DA's office all you want to, sir. You can talk about the Dunwoody Police Department all you want to, sir. That's what happened. Fact. Henry Newman, in an email chain, talks about when we woke up in Denver. Fact. Andrea Sneiderman, in her testimony, which y'all will see in a little while, equates Denver and Longmont as the same trip. You can say she was confused, sir, but that's what she said. That's a fact. Next month. We're in August. All right? The fact is, right after she gets back from this trip in August, what does she do? All right? Now, this is her sexual harasser. This is her stalker. What's the first thing she does? Andrea Sneiderman gives Henry Newman Rusty's email address. What kind of person does that? What kind of person is sexually harassed by their boss, is stalked by their boss, but the first thing they do is they hook their husband and their boss up? What kind of twisted little game is she playing? She's a manipulator. She's a deceiver. If this was in the street, they say she's got game. That's what she's doing. Fact. August 26th. Andrea Sneiderman and Henry Newman go to Greenville. No question about that. All right? That's their emails. That's her emails. Those are her statements. Fact. They have adjoining rooms in Greenville. Fact. On August 27th, you can drop it back down again. On August 27th, when they get back, the first thing she starts doing is talking about repenting for the rest of her life. That's the first thing she starts doing. And you know what's pretty interesting, and this is another fact, that Melanie White came in. You can say what you want to say about Melanie White, but Melanie White came in here and testified and told you all that Henry Newman told her she gave in Greenville. It's very interesting that when she got back from Greenville, she's repenting for the rest of her life. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Fact. Henry Newman is talking about I love you. Fact. She's talking about betraying her family and everybody she knows. Everybody she's ever known. All right? Fact. Henry said they had sex. She's repenting. She's talking about betrayal. Fact. Henry Newman says marry me. Henry Newman talks to her during this exchange about, what we did. Not just what you did, but what we did. About how we woke up in Denver. And you know what's pretty interesting? You know what her response is when Henry sends that email about what we did when we woke up in Denver? She doesn't say, Henry, you crazy. She doesn't say, Henry, that didn't happen. Henry, you lost your mind. Henry, stop sexual harassing me. Henry, stop stalking me. You know what she says? On the 30th, she sends an email and she says, there's so many things I have to say, even if I don't want to say them in person. Why don't you want to, why wouldn't you want to say these things? There's so many things I have to say, even if I don't want to say them. You're married. You got 2 kids. Lady, you have 2 children and a husband. Why don't you want to say it? What's so hard about saying this is inappropriate? You know why she doesn't want to say it? Because she's having a relationship with him. That's inappropriate. Even if I don't want to say it, let's meet in person and talk. Next month. September. What did she do on September the 1st? We're really getting to the deception here. Just about, what, 3 days after she repents for the rest of her life? 3 days after she talks about, there's so many things I have to say, even if I don't want to. 3 days after she says I betrayed everybody that I know, she tells her friend that she's being sexually harassed. What kind of twisted game is she playing? I mean, you just got back. You know, the chronology convicts her. I'm not making this stuff up, all right? You just got back from a trip with a man where you've had to repent from the rest of your life, all right? You've said, I've got to tell you things. We have to meet face to face. Let's just kiss and say goodbye. You know, you got to meet face to face. But it's September, 3 days later, and you're telling your girlfriend that the same man is sexually harassing you. You're a liar. You are a liar. And you know, it really gets bad. Because you drop down to the 8th of September, about 11 days after she repents for the rest of her life. All right? About 11 days after she talks about, you know, how what she did was just so terrible. And you know, interestingly enough, 11 days after Hemi says, I want to marry you and raise your children. What does she do 11 days after that? She sends him 198 photographs of her kids and her. Oh my God. Her words, her lies, her guilt. Well, it was done with it in September of 2010. I mean, maybe Andy Thompson made her do it. The very next week, what she do? She starts planning a trip to London with the man. She even volunteers to pay for the tickets. Her sexual harasser. Now we know, we've established a baseline. We already know on September the 1st, she told her girlfriend that she was being sexually harassed. Now she's planning fun time in London with him. And they're talking all, you'll have the emails. Mr. Clegg's right. You will have the emails. Go look at it. All this time they're going to spend together and all the fun things they're going to do, and we're going to go to the theater and we're going to go out dancing, and she's asking girlfriends, is it okay to dance with friends? All of this stuff is in the emails. All of this stuff is going on through here. All right. She also told you, and you heard it through her tape when she testified, that Rusty was helping her with a trip. Again, what kind of sick game is she playing? And then we get to the desire versus reality, and over here she's talking about, well, you know, I've got to juggle my desire versus my reality. Come on. And he's talking about I love you. Next page. We're in October, all right? They take a trip to Greenfield on the 21st of October, all right? Fact, they had adjoining rooms. Fact, they went together to Greenville. Fact, they went to a club. Fact, she went to a club with her sexual harasser. She went to a club with her stalker. Fact, they sat there and had drinks. Fact. These are facts, ladies and gentlemen. Fact, Christina said she saw him there. Fact, the woman that was there was a trained dancer. Fact, she is a trained dancer. So she says. Next slide. We're in November. Whole first week of November, she's pulling back. She's angry about something. You'll see those emails. Oh, I'm so angry at you, Hemi. I'm so mad at you, Hemi. And what does she do right after that? She and her husband go on a cruise from the 12th to the 15th of November. Fun time. I'm going to be a dutiful wife. You know, because you saw two Andrea Sneidermans during the course of this trial. Will the real Andrea Sneiderman please stand up? But what does she do as soon as she gets back? She has him over at the house. My God, people. Like, did you miss him? I mean, did you miss him? Is that what it was? I mean, you're away on a trip with your husband for 5-6 days, and the first thing you do when you get back to the house is run right back into your lover's arms. But you don't just run right back into his arms again. You start with your sick little game and you bring him back to your house. He's sitting at your table where your husband, where your children sit. Your sexual harasser. Give me a break. He wants a break. I really want a break. 18th. 2 days later, Rusty's dead. 2 days later, Rusty's dead. Check those calls from that morning. She calls Hemi 4 times in 11 minutes. The first response to getting the news that something has happened to her husband is not to call her mama, not to call her daddy, not to call Rusty, not to call Rusty's daddy, it's to call her sexual harasser. Really? And not just once. She calls him 4 times. Don't the man have voicemail? 4 times. Before she calls anybody else. She calls Hemi. And then there's an interesting call at 10:06. And you're going to see. And think about the testimony that you heard earlier. At 10:06, she was either at the daycare, the facts are going to show, or either at home. And she calls Hemi again. But you saw the video where she's collapsing. Wasn't nothing wrong with her hands. She's calling her sexual harasser, but at the same time, people would have you believe that she's so distraught, she's comatose. Seriously. 19th, she's interviewed by the police. She tells them there was nothing going on. All right? The night of the 19th, she calls Hemi. Look at the phone records. She calls him twice at midnight. Shannon Citron told you that phone call was to ask him if he did something. You don't call somebody asking if they killed your husband unless you suspect them. The 24th, she goes back in, says this Hemi thing is nothing, i.e., Hemi didn't do anything. You cannot reconcile those two things. It's a lie. It's deceitful. Her words, her lies, her guilt, her fault. Next slide. December. She gets an email from Hemi saying, I didn't what? I didn't do it. But what does she do? Her mom allegedly tells her, you can't call Hemi, he may come and kill you. He may come and kill you. Next slide. You guys are going to have emails. Go look at her email from the 3rd. She sets up a meeting with Hemi before she even sets up a meeting with the police. You'll see the email. Hemi, I need 10 minutes in your office. If you were so afraid of the man that you couldn't even call the police from Florida, why is the first thing you do when you get back is set up a meeting with him on the 3rd? Before you meet with the police on the 4th. She's lying. She wasn't afraid of him. She meets with the police on the 5th. Oh, Hemi's crazy. Oh, Hemi's crazy. But by the way, was Longmont a day trip, or was it a night trip, or was it a night trip, day trip? Really, you confused about that? I'm sorry, not Longmont, but Greenville. Really, you confused about whether Greenville was a day trip or a night trip? The first trip where you got busy and had adjoining rooms, the second trip where you had adjoining rooms and did your thing on the dance floor, you confused about whether or not you spent the night. Right, Andrea. Ladies and gentlemen, he's trying to bamboozle you. He's trying to mislead you. He wants to talk about everything else but the issue. All right? Let's talk about the law real quick. In this case, and he was right about one thing, you're going to have an indictment. It's the official charging document in the case. Go ahead and pull up reasonable doubt. It's the official charging document in this case, all right? And the state of Georgia has the burden of proving each and every material element of this indictment beyond a reasonable doubt, all right? That's our burden, ours. But what do we mean when we say reasonable doubt? A reasonable doubt is the doubt of a fair-minded, impartial juror honestly seeking the truth, all right? You're going to hear that it's not beyond all doubt, it's not a vague doubt, it's not an arbitrary doubt, it's not a mathematical certainty, it's a reasonable doubt, all right? It's not a doubt beyond speculation. It's not a doubt beyond extrapolation. It's not a doubt beyond guess. It is a doubt for which you can attach and assign a reason that is based on the evidence or the lack of evidence. So you can't come up with something and say, well, you know what, she just don't look like she'd do something like that. No, it's not a reasonable doubt. It's got to be based on the evidence. Okay, so in the context of reasonable doubt, let's go very quickly and examine these charges. Count 1. Hindering the apprehension of a criminal, and it says between 11/18/2010 and 1/5/2011, intent to hinder the apprehension of a person, first element, knows or has reasonable grounds to believe has committed a felony, second element, conceals or destroys evidence of the crime, third element. Next slide. All right, what the judge is going to charge you is and means or in the context of the indictment. So what do I mean? Every place you see or in that first count, it means and. What it means is if we prove any of those, all right, it's in the conjunctive, it's as good as all of them. And means or, okay? So concealing romantic relationship, guilty, okay? Concealing knowledge of culpability, guilty, okay? Destroying text messages and deleting messages, guilty. Doesn't have to be all three of them, it can be either one of them. Okay, next slide. Destroyed text messages and a record of telephone calls between herself and Hemi Newman that were exchanged on the date of the murder. You heard the testimony. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. The expert came in, testified that the text messages were missing. They talked a whole lot about chain of custody, but they stipulated. It wasn't our stipulation. They stipulated that their lawyer brought the phone to our office, and you heard testimony that our office brought the phone to the FBI. There's no evidence of any tampering. Did they call one single witness that came in here and said, we looked at the BlackBerry, and there's evidence on the BlackBerry that the DA's office or the FBI tampered with it? No. You know why you didn't hear that? Because it doesn't exist. Because there is no evidence that it was tampered. And that's that reasonable doubt thing. If you're going to have a reasonable doubt, it has to be based on the evidence. And so you just can't have a speculative idea like, well, maybe it possibly could have happened. No, reasonable doubt means there was evidence that it did happen. And so there's no evidence that anybody tampered with that phone. Expert told you that there were other calls, other text messages on that phone from that day, but the text messages to Hemi Newman, those text messages were deleted. Period, point blank, end of story. He said that the way that has to happen is that somebody's got to go on there and do that, and it's highly unlikely that Hemi's text messages could have been selectively deleted. Next slide, B. Remember, this is and also. Hindering the apprehension of a criminal. Conceal her romantic relationship with Hemi Newman from police. Well, first of all, it has to be a romantic relationship. I've talked about that a little bit. I have to repent for the rest of my life for what I've done. Romantic relationship. Conceal her romantic relationship. Andrea's words. She was interviewed, ladies and gentlemen. All right, she was interviewed, and she lied. Play the clip.
So, how has he tried to...
He hasn't done anything to break up my family. He's just expressed his feelings to me.
We're friends, so it's not... I want it to be clear that it wasn't just that he said, you're right, and I'm interested, and it's that or nothing? Am I saying that the right way? I don't know how I'm saying it. We continued our relationship.
And you guys it sounds to me like you guys had a strong enough friendship beforehand that this didn't disrupt anything. It was a blip on the radar and you got past it.
Exactly.
And the next trip after that?
Get back to me. Ask me again. What?
Did you ever express an interest in a relationship after Lake Tahoe?
I guess. Nothing like that I can directly point to except for him. I guess he would say, I wish you would change your mind, that kind of comment.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have concealing. She's asked specific questions about her romantic relationship. She's asked specific questions about these excursions, and she lies. She lies the first time, she lies the second time, she lies the third time, and she lies the fourth time. All right? Lying is concealing. All right? If they're specifically asking you questions, all right, about whether or not things continued after the first IE pass in Lake Tahoe, and you said no, all he said was, I wish you would reconsider, but we have just 2 weeks after that, I love you, I want to marry you, and her repenting for the rest of her life. That ain't the same thing. There's not enough room for those responses and the reality that you see in these emails in the same universe. You cannot reconcile them. They are irreconcilable. You cannot say he didn't try to further the relationship. You cannot say all he did was ask me to reconsider. You cannot say that well, it wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't anything. It was a blip on the radar screen and we got past it. When the man is saying, I want to raise your kids, I want to marry you, I love you, and you're saying, I know you do, but so do other people, and I've betrayed them all. Those are irreconcilable differences in those statements. She is an unmitigated, unqualified liar. Every time her mouth opens up, she tells a new lie. And then there's what Hemi tells Melanie White. So she tells people snippets, controlling the whole story. Isn't that exactly what she did with her mama and her friends and everybody? She told them, he's sexually harassing me, but she doesn't really tell the whole story about what she's doing. It's like your kid gets in trouble at school, you know, and you say, what happened? They're picking on me down there, but it doesn't tell you that he pushed the kid first. That's what she's doing. Next slide. Conceal her knowledge of Hemi Newman's culpability in Rusty's murder. Play the clip.
And I don't think that this Hemi thing is anything. I really don't. If I did, I'd sit here and like give you 50 other reasons why.
I don't think this Hemi thing is anything. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that interview was on the 24th. Again, we got to go by, I said the chronology convicts her. We got to go back to the chronology. She made 2 midnight phone calls to Hemi on the night of the 19th. The 19th chronologically of November, the 19th of November comes before the 24th of November. All right? Her husband was killed on the 18th. And so she calls him on the 19th and asks him, Hemi, did you do this? But then she goes and talks to the police on the 24th and says, I don't think this Hemi thing is anything. She's lying again. And why else would she call? I mean, look, I'm not making this stuff up. It's a fact. The phone records are there. She did call him. And she called him twice at midnight on the night of the 19th. Why else would she call Hemi Newman? Her stalker, her sexual harasser. She asked him if he did it, just like Shannon Citron said. And if she did that, then when she went and had that conversation that you just saw with the police on the 24th, she was telling a lie. And that makes her guilty of a crime, Mr. Clegg, in America. Next slide. Concealment of facts. Knowingly, willfully conceal material fact in a matter within the jurisdiction of any department of a city government. November 24th, 2010. Next slide. Concealed the existence of a romantic relationship between herself and Hemi Newman from members of the Dunwoody Police Department while they were conducting an investigation into Rusty's murder. All right? Did she conceal her romantic relationship on the 24th? Do we have a clip for this one? Okay, did we conceal it? Okay? And we go back, we go back to the clips that we just showed you guys on the 24th, ladies and gentlemen. All right, well, I'll show you another one on that one. Because she was asked point blank on the 24th. As a matter of fact, on the 19th, heck, her mom said, ask her if it was reciprocated. So she got an opportunity on the 19th, and then she had 5 days to get a story together. She comes back on the 24th, and she's asked specifically again about the romantic relationship, and she said it didn't happen. She's guilty. She concealed the existence of a romantic relationship between herself and Hemi Newman from members of the Dunwoody Police Department, no matter what you think about Detective Andy Thompson. All right? Doesn't matter. I don't care. He's the police, and he works for Dunwoody. And if you lie to the police in America, sir, that is a crime. Next slide. False statements. January 5th, 2011. Knowingly, willfully, make false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement or representation in any matter within the jurisdiction of the Dunwoody Police Department. Next slide. Specifically, the accused told Lieutenant D. Barnes and Deputy Chief D. Sides that she never suspected that Hemi Newman was involved in the murder of her husband prior to December 28th. Play the clip.
So you don't have to rehash the rest of it, but as the day goes on and you're going through your mind, at any point did you ever suspect that
It was up until that email.
And you got that email that was on December the 28th?
Right. I didn't really even read it until recently. I didn't.
Why wouldn't you have called us on the 28th to tell us that he had sent you that? That's pretty bizarre.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to show you any more emails, not going to show you any phone records. You're going to have an opportunity to see them, but common sense tells you, and I asked Chief Sides, and I know it sounds like a silly question, is November the 19th come before December the 28th? If she made that late night phone call, and the record shows that she made 2 late night phone calls to Hemi on the night after her husband was murdered, Shannon Citron, she said she made it to ask, if you killed my husband, all right, if she made that phone call, and if she did it because she wanted to know if Hemi killed her husband, then she told a bald-faced lie right here because she suspected him before December 28th of 2010. And the other question you got to ask yourself, why would you call him 5 times in 11 minutes as soon as you get the news that your husband's killed, unless you suspected him? Next clip. The thing that you got to know about false statements in America, the thing you got to know about false statements is that it doesn't have to be material. You didn't hear that in the defense's closing. Perjury has to be material. False statements just have to be false. And so if you tell a lie to the police, then you're guilty of a crime. If it's a lie, she's guilty. Materiality, not needed. So if what you heard isn't true, then she's guilty. Next slide. Count 4, perjury. February 21st, 2010 was given a lawful oath. B, made a false statement. C, that was material to issues surrounding the murder of Russell Sneiderman. Next slide. The defendant did not have knowledge, this is what she said, that Russell Sneiderman had been shot at the time she spoke to Donald Sneiderman prior to her arrival at Dunwoody Prep. Play the clip.
Okay, at the time you called Don Sneiderman, at that time, did you know what had happened to Rusty?
No.
Okay.
I didn't know what happened to Rusty until I got to the emergency room.
Okay.
No one told me what happened to Rusty.
You found out at the hospital that Rusty had been shot?
That's correct.
Okay.
Next slide. Proof. Don Sneiderman. Who you gonna believe? Who are you gonna believe? Are you gonna take the word of a habitual, documented liar? I mean, she lied to the police all 3 times she talked to him. She lied to her mama. She lied to her daddy. She lied to her friends. She lied to her family. And yes, she lied to a jury. Are you gonna take the word of a documented liar over the word of Don Sneiderman? So where are his lies? Where are the evidence that Don's lied to you before? Or lied to a jury before, or lied to the police before? Who's more credible? That's for y'all to determine. I can't tell you what to do. But I'm going to ask you to use your common sense. Don Sneiderman said that's what he heard, that's the phone call he got, and the only thing that you have that says otherwise is her. Is she credible? How many times does she have to lie before she's not credible? Next slide. Materiality. Perjury has to be material, unlike false statements. If a witness testifies to a material issue at a trial, then false testimony going to the credibility of that witness likewise can be considered material. All right? So, something has to link to an issue in the trial. You heard Donald Sneiderman, and you know, interestingly enough, Mr. Clegg actually elicited this testimony. You know, he said, you know, Don Sneiderman was right here, he said, well, Mr. Sneiderman, you were at the trial. Yes, sir, I was at the trial. Mr. Sneiderman, at the trial, there was an issue about whether or not Hemi Newman was insane. Is that correct? Yes, there was. At the trial, there was no issue as to whether or not Hemi Newman actually killed your son. No, sir, there was not. Assistant DA Cross got up. So what you're saying, Mr. Sneiderman, is that there was an issue about whether or not, listen real close, don't miss it, the affair, the relationship was imagined. Yes, sir, that's what I'm saying. That was the issue at trial. That was the material issue at trial. Whether or not he was hallucinating or delusional when he said they were having a relationship. That was the issue. Andrea Sneiderman comes in and lies at the same trial about whether or not they had a relationship. How is that not relevant? My God. The testimony was, again, was he hallucinating when he said they had a relationship? She testified at the trial they did not have a relationship. It's the central issue at the trial. It's the most important issue. The issue wasn't, and Mr. Clegg got this evidence out, the issue wasn't who killed Henry Newman. I'm sorry, who killed Rusty Sneiderman. That wasn't the issue, per Mr. Clegg's question. The issue was whether or not he imagined the relationship. That's what Donald Sneiderman testified to. And if she lied about the relationship, it is the most material issue in the trial. Next slide. False statements. Knowingly, willfully, make a false, fictitious, fraudulent statement or representation in any manner within the jurisdiction of city government. Next slide. The accused told Lieutenant Barnes and Deputy Sides that she did not know what happened to Russell Sneiderman at the time she arrived at Dunwoody Prep, when in fact she knew. Same thing. Play the clip real fast.
I called my mom, my dad, my brother, told them to meet me at Dunwoody Prep. Something's happened to Rusty, and I had no idea what was going on.
I have no idea what's going on. I called my mom, my dad, my brother. Didn't tell him to call Hemi though. Didn't know what was going on. I'm not going to go back over the argument on that again. Again, Don Sneiderman. Next slide. Don Sneiderman, Don Sneiderman, Don Sneiderman versus Andrea Sneiderman. Next slide. Count 6. Again, if it's a lie, she's guilty. No materiality for false statements. Next slide. Perjury. February 21st, 2010. Was given a lawful oath, made a false statement that was material, specifically that the defendant was not romantically involved with Hemi Newman. Next slide.
Were you and the defendant romantically involved?
No.
Simple enough, right? Question, answer, no. I mean, she said no. She didn't say, I don't understand what you mean when you say romantic. She said no. She said no. Next slide. Well, Mr. Clegg spent a lot of time in the opening statement talking about the state of Georgia has charged her with having a romantic relationship and there's no proof. And they're going to put up witnesses, but it just ain't going to happen. They were supposed to leave the roses in the room, the chocolates and flowers. Oh, I have an appreciation for perfectly open roses. The receptionist called me the last great romantic. Romantic for sure. This is her, Andrea, one of the best nights, dinners out I've had in a very long time. Most beautiful, most wonderful experience. And Hemi's talking about most beautiful, most wonderful experience of my life. Hemi's talking about marry me. And now she's talking about, I now have to repent and live with this for the rest of my life, and I have to balance feelings of anger and regret mixed with some other selfish feelings. I have betrayed everybody that I know. And she's talking about her desire versus reality. It sounds like a romance novel. And he has the unmitigated gall, the temerity to stand before you all and say, there's no romantic relationship. It ain't gonna happen. What's that? If it's a snake, it would have bit him. Next slide. February 21st, 2010. Was given a lawful oath, made a false statement that was material, specifically that none of the fillings were returned. Clip.
There were other times where, in passing or in a fleeting moment or in what seemed like a very silly email, he would seem to be expressing feelings for me. And none of those feelings were ever returned, and I made myself completely clear where I stood.
Next slide. Well, the betrayal and anger, and this is coming from him, mind you, it's not about what you did, parentheses, we did. It's about how you felt, what you wanted. How you felt when we looked at the stars in Tahoe. Return feelings. When we woke up Friday morning in Denver. When we walked out of the restaurant on Thursday. When you took my hand and nestled your head on my shoulder. Melanie White's testimony. Return feelings. Sex is, it takes two to have sex. So that's kind of a return feeling, I hope. Christina Oliveira. She testified. He's hunching her, they're hunching each other, they're feeling each other, they're groping each other, they're out on the floor doing the hoochie coochie dance, they're getting it on. You know, the trained dancer is at her best. I don't know what she's trained in. It sounds like a return filling to me. Next slide. Count 8. November 19, 2010, knowingly willfully made false statements to Detective Thompson specifically that she made it clear to Hemi Newman that she did not want him to pursue her. Look.
He hasn't done anything to break up my family. He's just expressed his feelings to me.
Okay, but has it been through flirting? Has he specifically said, "I'm interested in you"?
Yes, he specifically said that. Yes.
Was it reciprocated?
I made it clear and that's that.
I made it clear. I made it clear. I made it clear. And that's that. Next slide. She never made it clear. 10 days after she got back from, what was it, Greenfield? 10 days after she got back and, 10 days after Hemi proposed his marriage, 10 days after Hemi asked to raise her kids, what did she do? She sent 198 photographs of herself and her children to the man. Is that clear? Is that clear? It's clear, but it ain't clear that you don't want her to pursue you. That's it. Next slide. February 21st, 2010 was given a lawful oath, made a false statement that was material specifically that she did not share a hotel room with Hemi Newman in Longmont. Play the clip.
Did you and the defendant share a room in Longmont?
No.
Well, that was a clear enough response, was it? No. Well, there's two types of evidence, ladies and gentlemen. There's direct evidence and there's circumstantial evidence. Direct evidence is testimony of a person who asserts that he or she has actual knowledge of a fact, an eyewitness. All right? Circumstantial evidence, which I'm going to talk about in a second, is proof of a set of facts and circumstances that tend to prove or disprove another fact by inference. And I'll put that in plain language. No legal difference, important to know, in the weight you give to either direct or circumstantial evidence. No legal difference. So Mr. Clegg talked about, but it's circumstantial evidence, like it's a curse word. No legal difference. Circumstantial evidence, direct evidence, the same in the eyes of the law. Next slide. Direct evidence, Hemi's words. Direct evidence, Hemi's words. Direct, he said there's no direct evidence, there is. All right? The betrayal and anger is not about what you, parentheses, we did. And I'll get right to the point on this. When we woke up in Denver, Hemi's words. Direct evidence. Next slide. Circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence is like this. You got an old man and you got, I tell this story, there's an old guy and he has a son who's gone to law school. And they go to bed one night. All right, go to bed late one night. And it's clear outside. And what happens is they close the blinds, they close the doors, and they sleep soundly. All right? They wake up the next morning, they walk out of the door at the same time. There's rain, there's water all over the porch, there's water all over the ground, landscaping is displaced. And the first thing the grandfather says to his grandson, who's a criminal defense lawyer, he says, son, it must have been a terrible storm out here last night. Criminal defense lawyer says, well, how do you know? You didn't see it. That's so circumstantial, Grandpa. You slept all night just like I did. You closed the blinds, you closed the shutters, you didn't see or hear anything. How do you know there was a storm last night? Grandfather looks back at the criminal defense lawyer, his grandson, and says, look, son, I've been in this world a long time. And I got common sense and I got my life experience. And when I walk out and I see water on the ground, I see landscaping displaced, okay? I see garbage cans turned over. I know it rained last night and nobody can tell me any different. That's circumstantial evidence. Deducing it from the circumstances, and you are allowed to do that. You're allowed to use your life experiences. What do we have? Put the boards back up. What do we have? We have, and we'll start from the bottom. We have Brady Blackburn's testimony. I checked 2 people in when Andrea Sneiderman checked in. Okay, Lindsay Clayton's testimony. Hemi Newman didn't have anything at this hotel. Detective McManus's testimony. Well, we're getting warm. All right? There's no hotel within 5 miles of this hotel. And that's important because the next thing we have is Agent Chad Fitzgerald saying that cell tower goes out. The cell tower goes out for a mile and a half. Not 5 miles, but a mile and a half. And Hemi Newman's phone, the whole time he was in Longmont, was pinging off that tower. Unless he slept on the street, he slept at the hotel. That's where he sent the roses. That's where he sent the chocolates. That's where he sent the candy. That's where he sent the love note. And you know what's really interesting is that him and Newman ordered food from Phone Garden Restaurant. She paid for it. The circumstantial evidence. Next slide. Knowingly, willfully made a false statement to Lieutenant Barnes and Chief Side, specifically that she denied that Hemi Newman was in Longmont in July 2010 with the accused. Play the clip.
Did you make any trips this year by yourself without him?
Like training, Denver, auditor training class.
In Denver?
That was
What month was that?
okay. July also. It was like the week after Minden. I remember because my husband had to do 2 weeks like by himself, you know, with the kids almost in a row. I came home for a weekend, and then I sort of had to leave again for this training class.
Yes. Hemi was not in Denver?
No, I mean, not that I know of, but
We know Hemi was in Denver. I'm not even going to insult y'all's intelligence by arguing. All right, his cell phone was there. She picked him up from the airport. She flew back on a plane with him. We know he was in Denver. All right, let's go to Longmont equals Denver.
Do you have to fly into Denver to get to Longmont?
Yes.
Okay, so you were in Denver.
I flew into Denver.
Okay, so yesterday you were talking to Mr. Geary about not telling the police about Denver or anything. We're talking about that same trip. There's not 2 trips to Colorado.
Correct.
Her words, her lies, her guilt. Andy Thompson wasn't there. Did Andy tell her to do it? Did Dunwoody Police Department tell her to lie? Next one. False statement. If it's a lie, she's guilty. No materiality needed. Next slide. Perjury. Was given a lawful oath, made a false statement. That was material specifically that at the time she was in Longmont, she believed that he was not there, on General Electric business. Clip.
When you traveled for GE without the defendant, did he ever show up even though he did not have GE business at that location?
Yes. Well, I know now that he didn't have GE business, but that was not my understanding at the time.
Which trip are you talking about?
I was in Longmont, Colorado, and he showed up.
Now, you made a distinction a moment ago. Did the defendant have GE business at Longmont to your knowledge?
I presume that he did. That's what I was told.
Okay. Now, did you indicate that he was there on business, or was he there just to see you?
He indicated to me he was there on business.
And you, to the best of your knowledge now, you're saying that he was there on business?
Yep.
Okay.
She even laughs. She even had an attitude because, like, how dare you keep asking me this? Yep. She's given like 4 chances to tell the truth. How many times does this woman have to lie before somebody holds her accountable? My goodness. She's making a mockery. He wants to talk about a joke. He said our counts were a joke. He said our case was a joke. No, she's making a joke of the criminal justice system. And why is it material? Why is it material? It's material because it goes to their romantic relationship. And she denied they had a romantic relationship, and he was trying to say he imagined it at the last trial. And that was the central issue in the trial. That's what Don Sneiderman testified to. Email. Send a note to Carmen and ask her to order a car for services. Then we'll figure out how I get home since I'm not on business travel. A lot. Next slide. Count 12. Given a lawful oath, made a false statement, material, specifically that him and Newman did not kiss, her and him and Newman did not kiss while she was in Greenville. Clip.
Did you kiss him or did he kiss you?
No. Nope. But I guess you have people that have said that that did occur.
Do you have any idea why someone would believe you were kissing?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Next slide. Who you gonna believe? Christina Oliveira, who has no interest in this case, who just came here, who sat on the stand, who said, you saw the receipt. Says Hemi Newman, says Christy, it's her table. You'll have the receipt back there, fill it, examine it, touch it, do what you want to do with it, all right? October 21st, the night they were there, I saw two people. One looked like Hemi Newman, the other looked like Andrea Sneiderman, and the person that looked like Andrea Sneiderman, this happened to be a trained dancer, or so she said. And I saw them doing all types of gyrations and hunching, and yes, kissing one another. And yes, that has corroboration. The receipt corroborates it. She was there. The night corroborates it, because she said it was October 21st. Their schedule shows October 21st. Next slide. Specifically, that it was due to her mother, Bonnie Greenberg's concern for her safety that she did not immediately report her suspicions of Hemi Newman's involvement in the murder of Rusty Sneiderman to Dunwoody Police. Play the clip.
And Mom's telling me he might come kill you because he's in Florida and we don't know what's going on. Why don't we wait till we get back to Atlanta to tell the police? Up to that day, the police and I didn't exactly have the best working relationship.
So you believe you know who killed Rusty, and you were going to wait to get back to Atlanta to tell him?
Yep, that's correct. For the protection of myself and my children, I was going to wait till we get back to Atlanta to tell them. That's correct.
Did there come a time where Andrea told you while you were in Florida that she had received an email from Hemi Newman?
Yes.
Please tell me about that.
She said she had received an email from Hemi Newman.
Did she say what the content of that email was?
No.
Did she say how she felt about getting that email from Hemi?
I don't recall.
Did she tell you that she believed Hemi Newman had killed Rusty?
No.
I'm sorry?
No.
Did she indicate that she was in fear of Hemi after receiving that email?
I don't recall.
Everybody's lying. Can somebody please tell the truth? I mean, did she tell you that Hemi Newman killed her husband? Well, she told Tammy Parker allegedly, but she didn't tell her mama. But her mama's so afraid that she said, you can't send an email, you can't make a phone call because he may be monitoring the phone lines. Does that make sense? I mean, does that really make sense? And I'm going to show you why it doesn't make sense. Next slide. This is why it doesn't make sense. January 3rd, and I showed you the calendar earlier. There's January 4th, when Mr. Clegg made such a big deal about how she went in and talked to Chief Grogan, with the police chief with the Dunwoody Police Department, and they didn't take notes and they didn't record that interview. Let me tell you what is recorded. She's so afraid. She's so afraid that she can't even call the police or tell them that it's Hemi. But before she has that meeting about the vigil on early day on the 4th, she's got to stop by and have a chit-chat with Hemi in the office. The same man she's terrified with. January 3rd, 2011, 10:58 p.m. Hemi, I am thinking about stopping by the office tomorrow for 30 minutes or so to see Ann, Jerry, Jana, Lori, etc. Do you have 10 minutes to chat in your office? What? You can't even send an email or a phone call from Florida because you're afraid he's going to kill you and your family, but you want to go sit down and have a chit-chat with him? Those are hard words. The chit-chat. To chit-chat. It's a lie. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the 13 counts. Those are the 13 lies. Those are the 13 acts of deception. What did I tell you at the beginning? This case is about her, not about Dunwoody, not about the DeKalb DA's office, not about Shana Citron, not about anybody else. It's about her. Her words convict her. Her actions convict her. That's what it's about. It's about her actions, her deceit, her twisted little love triangle, her sick game that she was playing with her husband and his murderer, having them up in the same house, sitting at the same table, playing them both. It's about her and about what she did. That's what this is about. We wouldn't even be here if she knew how to tell the truth. And don't get it twisted, the truth matters. Truth matters. Our criminal justice system is founded and based on the truth. When a witness sits in this chair right here, and they sit down, and they swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and they turn to a group of people like this, and they offer testimony, that jury relies on their testimony to make a determination. The police rely on statements to solve cases. You know, we've been having rallies and things like that because of recent incidents that have been going on in our country, and I've heard no justice, no peace, no justice, no peace. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do you one better. Where there's no truth, there can be no justice. If you don't have truth, then you can't have justice. You cannot call yourself justice seekers unless you are a truth seeker. Period, point blank, end of discussion. You have to seek the truth, and the truth is that she lied. So I'm going to ask you to pick up your notepads, to walk back in that room, review all the evidence. If you want to look back at the clips, look back at the clips again, look at the emails, and come back out here and render a verdict that speaks the truth and not a lie. And the truth is that Andrea Sneiderman is guilty of all 13 counts in this indictment because she, ladies and gentlemen, is a liar. And in America, you cannot lie to the police and you cannot lie to the jurors. That makes you guilty. Find her that way. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, with the assistance of Deputy Garrett, I'm going to give you a brief stretch break in the jury room, and then when I bring you back out, I will give you the law that will be applied to this case. At this point in time, still don't discuss the case. Deputy Garrett, there's going to be about 10 minutes. 10 minutes, Deputy Garrett. All rise.